Episode 33. Welcome back,
Number
y'all.
33. That's the one. That's where we're at. Where are you on 9/11? Where were you on 9/11? It's coming up.
We're going back in time because we invented a time
Yes.
machine.
Whoa, getting a little bit crazy from the offset. But can you guys believe it's been 33 episodes? I think it's been over a year since we've been doing this now. I don't know when the year anniversary is, but I think it's been over a year.
Almost a year. Almost. Really? We're almost there. About another month in, I think we'll be at 1 year.
So in Chase's and I's relationship, he is more of he's the one who remembers dates. He remembers the birthdays. He remembers our anniversary. He remembers just all of these little nuanced things, where I am more of like the show horse. I am prepared and brought places to talk, be looked at, and go back home. And that's pretty much, how this dynamic works. But
yes.
Yeah. Wanted you guys to have
I'm the trainer behind the scenes.
Yes. Yeah. He's the one.
I'm the trainer behind the scenes, making sure.
Whipping me into shape, boys. Yeah, no. Whippersnapper. Little whippersnapper. But it does feel really good to be back because, these past few episodes we've had to take some, not really breaks, but we just get busy because, we're running other multinational corporations. And that takes some time away sometimes. And, we don't get to release every single time we want to. This one's right after 32, sequentially 33 was next, and we did it, the next week. So we're pumped about it. We're back. Yep. We're excited to be back in front of you guys. But I've had, a pretty interesting past few. Don't even say past few, like a past week. All the craziness in Texas. I was actually down there for a lot of that. Man. But before I dive into it, how's your week been, brother? How even though we talk literally every day, just for the crowds, tell them about it.
Just for the crowds. It's been good. Nothing too crazy, nothing exciting. I'm trying to think. I turn 32 here in a few days, which is insane. And then Keegan will be a few days after me. So that's on the horizon. The reason why we started this podcast is to find our future wives. That is the only reason that we started this whole thing. So if you're out there, it doesn't matter what country you're in, just as long as you're a female, preferably that would be ideal.
Matter.
And
countries matter.
Countries matter. Yeah.
Not because
we're not going to do a green card marriage,
which is getting harder and harder regardless. But in terms of traveling, man, I think that dating someone from a different country is fun. It's, I don't mean this in any way outside of like, it's very interesting. It's exotic. Like you're not used to it, the accent, the culture, but hot dang, you can get yourself into hot water real quick out there, boys. Watch out for them Latinas. They'll get you, and they'll get you good. Those eyes, man, those eyes could trick a crocodile into coming, into a frozen lake or something. Man, Latinas, just be careful out there, boys. But that was all that to say that while we did do this solely to find wives, and once we find them, we're quitting the whole thing. Just kidding.
Yes.
If you're like,
I'm not.
There's distance limits. I would say there's distance limits, and I know we're gonna have a lot of applications. Everyone, calm down. But there are,
chill.
We gotta have some self-respect. Chill out. You're acting crazy right now.
You can send your application to be our future wives. Not like we share one. We're not going to do that. Like each one.
Be. That's the impression
it's a trio.
I was under.
Okay. Google. But send your applications to thoughtifyae@gmail.com. We look through applications. We're actively in the market, as one would say. So feel free to reach out to us that way, or via Instagram too.
Instagram, phone numbers, email, carrier pigeons, whichever one you guys want. I'll respect that.
Instant message.
AIM, AOL, America. Was it AOL Instant Message? That's what it was.
AOL.
Yes. But that's what AOL Instant Message, right? Yeah. Man, funny story about AIM.
Or via Omegle.
Gosh, if you want to see a lot of 5-centimeter Peters, jump on Omegle because hot dang, that's all that. It's crazy because, and I'm not, I don't want to get vulgar with it, but it's just literally you'd get on there and every 3 in a row, it would be some weird dude sitting there grabbing his thing, just staring at the camera. And you're like, you're a human somewhere in the world. Like, and this is, you were working today and you were like, dude, I can't wait to get home from work. I'm just going to go whip my thing out on Omegle just so I can freak out kid. Like, oh man, the depravity that has to exist for that guy to be alive and normal in the real world and not like spotted. Like he knows people and people are like, oh no, that's Jeff. Jeff's a great guy. I love Jeff. Worked with him for about 6 years now. Really, really great guy. I'd let him date my daughter until you find out he did see your daughter, but it was on Omegle and he was freaking sitting there in a weird thong or something like that. Gosh. Anyways.
Good times. Not like we've been on Omegle at all, like ever.
No, not at all. And what was I saying before that? Not about Omegle, but about
which one was it? Message.
Yeah, no, I was on AIM one time as a kid, and I thought I was so slick, and I was talking to this neighborhood girl, and her name was Jessica. It wasn't the Jessica you remember, but it was a Jessica that I went to school with. She was in 6th grade, what I thought was pretty cute. And I didn't know she lived right in the neighborhood. We found out and we started messaging on AIM. And like my dad, for those that don't know, was kind of a hard ass in terms of he was 6'3", 260 pounds. He was a college linebacker, was in the military. He was just a unit. And when he got mad, it was not a good thing. And I always went to my mom first to make sure, like, if anything happened that, I could lighten the blow with my mom. And that would be facilitated to my dad through like a safe and secure line that, couldn't be destroyed. But I was on AIM and I didn't want to ask my parents if I could go see this girl because they were going to ask so many questions. They're going to tell me when to be back. But if I said something else, then I could very easily just get out of the house. So I go to message this girl and I say, hey, I'm going to tell my parents I'm going on a bike ride and then I'll come over. So I went over there, I came back, and the next morning my mom comes in and she wakes me up. She's like, Keegan. And this is like, I know it's like when the person on the other team is coming to like try to lighten the blow of what's coming to you, it's bad. She was like, Keegan, last night you left your AIM open and your dad sat down at the computer and saw that you lied to us about going on a bike ride. And I was just like, that was like, my heart dropped straight through my ass. And I was like surprised that I did not wet the bed. And I put the blanket on my face and I was just like, it's this for the foreseeable future. I don't know what life is going to be like. This is horrible. But I actually didn't get in that much trouble. He was a little bit understanding. I think when it came to chasing the foxes, my dad was more of a like, go get them, son. Yeah. But yeah,
there you go.
Don't leave your AIM, your instant message open and openly say you're about to go lie to your parents.
I'm going to close mine before I screen share for this episode.
Right. But I digress. But we had something new that we kind of wanted to run by you guys. Chase, you want to go ahead and introduce it?
So Keegan and I have been talking. Crazy enough, we've been talking. And
that's it.
That's not like we ever do that. News. But that was the news. All right, that was it. Where do we go from now? From here? I don't know. It was weird. But we were talking about introducing a new consistent segment called Thoughtify Thoughts, where we basically just carve out, this is Thoughtify, and we're going to introduce our thoughts. Not like we ever introduce our thoughts ever in any episode, but we are going to create a designated segment called Thoughtify Thoughts, where we carve out just a short little brief high octane moment to tackle some fresh topics, covering everything from like cutting edge innovations to cultural vibes or things going on to global events, technological breakthroughs, scientific discoveries, or just crazy like quirky concepts. So read a topic, and then we'll give each other a short little bit of time to kind of drop some opinions and thoughts on the whole process or on the topic, and kind of give our unfiltered take, and seeing where it goes. So, segment 1 of Thoughtify
Hold
Thoughts
on,
in
hold on.
episode 33.
There's one part that you always do this. Jeez.
You're not allowed to talk
let
in this
me
segment.
Talk.
What I didn't finish with is you're not allowed to talk in this segment.
Specifically the crowd. Be quiet. We're trying to listen.
Yes.
Anyways, no, we're literally in different places by ourselves right now. But no, we're going to also ask, in terms of putting some structure around it and making it a consistent thing we're going to do with the thoughts, we're going to ask 3 questions that will help us dive into it. It's going to be, what's the wildest way this could play out? How would this change your daily life? And lastly, who benefits or suffers from this being real? And I do want to make a public call that on these segments specifically, these are usually hot button items in terms of what we're going to be looking into. So please comment and agree or disagree with us and just engage with the topic, because these are the ones that are being talked about in the stratosphere of the world right now. And we want to hear what you guys think outside of just our crazy thoughts. So Chase, without further ado, introduce the first Thoughtify Thoughts.
The first segment and the first topic for Thoughtify Thoughts is, how does having low T affect Keegan?
Oh my gosh. Guys,
Kidding.
gotta stop this.
Kidding.
But low
Kidding,
T
kidding,
awareness.
Low T awareness. Go buy the shirt on our website.
Go buy the shirt. You don't know who is suffering. Donate today. Make sure
Only
that
you can make a difference.
Only you can make a difference. Do your part.
Yes.
Do your part. Be the change that you want to see.
Yes. With low T awareness. But the first topic is regarding the Epstein list. So as you guys have probably heard, the Epstein list was a list, and supposedly with this current administration, they were going to release that list. And come to find out, within the last few days, according to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, there is no more list, or there was never a list. There is just no list. So, Keegan, kick it off. What is your Thoughtify thought?
And this is meant to be a little bit, we're not trying to spend the entire podcast on here, so we'll try to be concise. But the first one is, what's the wildest way this could play out? And honestly, man, I think that, in my opinion, the wildest way that this could play out is one of 2 things. The second is going to be extremely unlikely, but the first, I think, is going to be a little bit more realistic. So we obviously saw that people had confirmed there was a list, people had said they'd seen the list and all this stuff. And the idea that Jeffrey Epstein would not keep a list of clients in terms of the positions he was in is ridiculous. So there was obviously a list. And the wildest way this could play out, in my opinion, is that someone, I think this is the most likely one, someone that is extremely notable. And it's very much like who they make that documentary about recently, about the pain pills, the opioid epidemic, and they made it about one family. It's on Netflix, but that's specific to like 6 or 7 families, or a lot of different parties that were involved in creating the opioid epidemic. Usually they put one lamb out to slaughter, and they say, hey, this is going to be our sacrificial lamb, and we did something wrong, but this is who's going to take the heat. I think we're going to have someone of extremely high notoriety, like someone you'd never expect, at a certain point have to make some type of submission of honesty or whatever it might be. That someone's going to suffer for it, and they're going to put it on one specific person. I don't know who it would be, but the idea that you're gonna, and I'm a Trump fan. Like, the fact that this is happening under the Trump administration is one of the most disgusting things that I've ever experienced. Because the idea that, like, you're literally now going to look everyone straight in the face as if you were peeing directly on our legs, and as we look down and we look back up, you go, no, look at me, that's rain, that's just rain, that's not me peeing on you. And it's like the disrespect at this point. But to you, what's the wildest way this could play out? And I was going to go into the second one, but I don't want to just blabber on.
I agree in a sense of, I feel like there's going to be a scapegoat, and that scapegoat is going to have to fall on their sword. Whoever that kind of encompasses. And the one interesting point to add on to that, because we share that same thought, at least on this segment. If there's no Epstein list, then why is Ghislaine Maxwell still in jail? If there was nothing for her to be in jail about relating to the list, why is she still in jail? Why not let her out?
Someone said that this morning that I was listening to someone talk about it, and they said, then there wasn't a list. So apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell's just in jail for, literally nothing. She's just there. And it's just like the stuff that has to like be accepted for that to be a true statement in terms of everything that's happened prior is just such a slap in the face. But you want to move on to the second question?
Yep.
All right,
Let's
so
do it.
I'm going to turn this one on you first. How would this or does this change your daily life?
I mean, no. Just at sheer face value, I mean, for as much as the government has misled us, for as much as the government has lied to us, this is nothing new. So this does not affect me in my everyday life. I think the only thing it might change or add to is just the amount of frustration, especially when we were told and promised, yes, you're going to get this information. You're going to get all the names, the file's going to be released, the list will be out there for public view. And then this happens, and I'm like, I don't want to say I'm shocked because I'm not. I'm just sincerely disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, but I'd say I have a similar but different opinion. I mean, maybe not right now in this very second is this going to change my daily life, but what this has shown me is that there is a level of life that you can get into, and that level probably starts a lot lower than we think, and it is much more relevant to who you're connected to and not just being in the arena of that level. But there's a level in life to where rules stop applying or have less application to certain people, and it's very obvious up here. But what it scares me of is like there was recently like a massive pedophile ring busted of like over 300-400 people. You had talked about it,
and that was in North Texas.
Yeah, so the idea of that, and the idea that there's a lot of people in power who can help people like that, makes me want to structure my life more every day in terms of someone who would be a prepper or live off the grid or something like that. Not specifically like a prepper, but someone who's more self-sustaining, has land, things like that. Because it just, when I have kids, that shows me that my kids are not safe. And my kids are going to be at risk of that no matter where I put them. So that's the scary part, is wherever there's bureaucratic power to protect anyone, like a police force or anything like that, what it's really showing me is once you get to the top tiers of those, where you could be the gas station. If you're at the top tier and you run the show at the gas station, you then have so much influence and power over the people under you, and you have the opportunity to implement something like this. So for me, it makes me a lot more, shout out Sean Ryan, vigilant in regards to not allowing those situations to creep into any part of my life in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. What's the last one?
Third one. I mean, this one's a pretty easy one to go through, but who benefits or suffers from this being real? And I think from this being real is probably the most interesting part of that question, because it's like the fact that this is real, that literally we have just been, again, are peeing on our legs and looking us directly in the eye as it's splattering both of us and going, that's actually rain. It's raining on everyone right now. And it's like 120 degrees outside. It's just like the amount of screw it, just do it. The other thing I was going to say earlier is like, I think that this has the potential to light some type of real revolution at some point, because like at a certain point, we got to stop looking at this and going, oh man, like, I guess the government just gets away with stuff. At a certain point, just like it has happened in history, they'll be like, no, people are stronger than the government. We have to tear this thing down if this is what's going to be allowed to happen. And I don't, I hope I'm not alive for that, but but my bad. Who benefits or who suffers from this being real? Go.
Well, and piggybacking off that point, one of the the basis points for them at least saying there's no list or not releasing it, however you want to phrase it, ultimately goes to show. I mean, there's obviously a list. There's not a list. There's no way. But comments that I've heard in the past relating to this topic, that I think this whole instance just goes to show how deep that this list truly went. You want to talk deep state, and not only individuals that were high up in the US government or, special interest groups or heads of massive big tech companies, whatever it is, this is worldwide. You're talking implications that would affect the majority, if not a lot, of the major heads or top dogs around the entire world. So by keeping this secret or saying that there's no list, I think creates the biggest amount of protection, obviously, for those at the top. So that is clearly a benefit to them. But I think if it was released, that would change the potential dynamic of democracy, air quotes, as we know it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of who benefits, I think that's, not to get off like the topics that we want to, not the topics, like the way we want to cover the questions, but I think it's more of a matter of what benefits. And that being that if there's an organized ring of 400 pedophiles that was operating and that has like similar operating procedures to any type of uniform group, that in and of itself is insanely crazy. So who benefits from this being real? I think that, especially with the way pornography and things are going, with all this weird stepbrother and, all this stuff like this, like it is making it more of a safe idea to give in to pedophilic tendencies in terms of like, oh, there's a massive group of people out there that are just like me, or like, like viewing it as something that's normalized in some way, shape, or form. So it can be like, just like anything that ever has been, whether like think of marijuana being legal or not. It was demonized until it became normalized to the point it was accepted, which allowed the law to be changed. This is the same thing happening with this. They're benefiting from this because they're demonized until the point that it's accepted that it's always going to be there, and then they're going to try to implement it in ways that keep it there and make it accessible for anyone that has this. And then who suffers? Obviously the freaking kids who have to go through this crap, but I think also we suffer too, because most, like a lot of these are controlled by criminal organizations, cartels, just really horrible people. And this is one of their cash cows, is anything to do with human trafficking. That's like one of their most profitable businesses because people will pay so much money for it. And it's like our communities are suffering because this is it's a cancer that's growing, and it's like a tumor in us. So who benefits from this being real? I think, unfortunately, not just the... Oh man, if my computer reboots, I swear. But yeah, so long story short, who's benefiting is this any pedophile out there who's now realizing that what they're doing has been normalized to a point that there's that many existing pedophiles and they have the opportunity to be there. But I really think a lot of indirect suffering is going on, especially with just the community of people outside of the direct suffering of the kids, because that degrades social interaction in terms of people trusting other people around their kids. It degrades people going out and spending money in the economy because they don't want to be introduced into dangerous situations. It's just one of those things that overall everyone suffers. And then there's obviously the kids who are just the most, and not just, and I apologize, I keep going down this, but who benefits? Everyone in Hollywood. Everyone in Hollywood knowing that, hey, oh, they've got us. They've actually got us. Guys, ramp up production, because when it comes down to it, we know some people that don't want their names out there.
Yeah.
We're protected. And it's just like, man, it's from Epstein being protected like that at the world scale, and not anyone in the world that's literally where your back's up against the wall and you go, oh, no, really, no one's coming for us. Like we're just left to whatever happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just exactly, and to kind of wrap this segment up, even though it's it's a little bit longer than we anticipated, but that's okay. We're not sticking to any crazy guidelines. But all the charges that were brought against Diddy got off.
On everyone besides 2. And you know what he got off on, or what he didn't get off on? Something about transferring for prostitution or something. It's because he bought her an Uber. So literally because she was in traffic.
Yeah.
It was considered sex trafficking. And I don't know if my computer's about to, I don't think it will. I hope not. But it's there was just a countdown going and it said it might have to reboot. So if that happens, we'll edit it out. But don't eat any sauerkraut without a hot dog.
Don't
because
pout.
You don't want that log. And listen, if you're going to be a dragon, just don't make any smog.
Whoa. I don't even know where to go from that.
Yeah.
That hit hard.
Epstein list.
Yep. Epstein list. Comment whether you agree, disagree, list your points. We want to engage with you guys. So let us know your Thoughtify thoughts.
We want to be engaged with you.
Yes.
We are seeking to meet your parents and marry you.
As one, referencing, yes, we are looking for future wives. So not to bring that up
shout
again.
Out. Yeah.
That might be the new segment too.
Out.
Keegan and Chase, looking for marriage.
You know what we should do? That would actually be so funny. We should recreate those 80s dating videos where they're like, I'm a little bit of an outdoorsman, they say, but you don't ever want to see me around a fire. Oh, you know why? And they're just like, what?
They make it super awkward and just like,
I'm just driving in my Porsche with my wind blowing in the hair. The only thing that's missing is you.
We're definitely going to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to be
fun.
80s throwbacks. But yeah, so that was an interesting little segment. We'd love to hear from you guys. But on to the meat and the potatoes of this episode. We said last episode that we would dive into it, and we are. We're not going to disappoint you guys because we think there's a lot of interesting stuff, yes, around Noah's Ark. So evidently there's been theory that maybe we found Noah's Ark, sitting over obviously on Mount Ararat in Turkey. And there's actually a mountain. I'll pull up a picture that looks like... But
the interesting part is that's exactly where the Bible said it was landed. He said it landed on top of Mount Ararat.
But there's been pictures, you guys can Google it, that you can look at the top of a mountain and see from what looks like the outline of a massive boat.
Well,
share my screen real quick just so I can pull this up while we're talking.
As you're doing that, to give, obviously everyone knows about the Noah's Ark and the world flooding, but some context behind it that makes it really interesting. And that does look like if there were ever to be a boat right there, that kind of looks like the shape of one. But in terms of making it a little more interesting, this is one of the not only most reported stories in the Bible, but in terms of being reported throughout multiple cultures, there's a lot of different flood narratives pointing to the fact that something most likely actually happened that was a world event that multiple cultures knew about. But in regards to the Bible, there's a lot of places in the Bible to where things have changed so much landscape wise that it's not as easy to pinpoint where people were talking about outside of if there's a city like Jordan or, if there's a city like Bethlehem or something that's concrete that's still there. But if there's not a bunch of things that have like an actual pinpoint location supporting it with any type of evidence that is leaning in that direction. Not to say that things don't have evidence and can't be proven, but in terms of the location being in the Bible and at the location, there's actually some type of theoretical, or I don't want to say theoretical, but, potential evidence. This is one of those stories from the Bible that is actually a lot more interesting in real life outside of the world flooding.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, to your point, Keegan, the interesting concept that it's not just a biblical story. There's multiple accounts from multiple cultures, multiple religions that indicate the world went through a flood of some sort. So, whatever kind of belief that you line yourself with, in some form or fashion, there is a flood context and a flood story. So as you guys can see, as we've been talking, here's kind of some pictures of this said mountain where they believe Noah's Ark to have rested.
Mm-hmm. And just to backtrack a little bit, it's been flood narratives have been reported in ancient Mesopotamia, Indian in terms of like Hindu, India, Indian, Chinese mythology, Greek mythology.
Epic of Gilgamesh.
That was the ancient Mesopotamia.
Yep.
Greek mythology, Persian, American tribes, American Indian tribes, Mesoamerican cultures like the Aztec, Aboriginal Australians, Polynesian Pacific. I mean, Polynesian people were surrounded by water the whole time. I'm not surprised that they saw a flood. You guys kind of put yourself in that situation. African cultures, Yoruba, Kwaya. So all that to say that, it's corroborated in terms of it being some type of historical event very well across the cultures, which usually you don't get stuff like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of diving in, so there was speculation, and I believe that picture that I just showed. Yeah. So the grayed out one in that picture view that I just showed, the one on the left, that grayed out one, was an aerial view taken
Pull it
back
back
in
up.
1961.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling it back up here. So the one on the left right here. This picture was taken back in 1961. So it's not like this is a newfound thing where people are speculating like, oh, no way. In the last 2 years, we're suspecting this is Noah's Ark. No, this has been a long, ongoing kind of investigation and archaeological process to try to figure out what's going on. And obviously, as time has gone on, the years have moved on, we have developed better technology, specifically relating to GPR, ground penetrating radar. So they're, I think, doing a lot more intensive investigation regarding this speculation as to whether this is Noah's Ark.
And here's the crazy thing is there we go, look at that. I forgot to turn on that light. But so Turkey is heavily Muslim, and this is a very supporting biblical, even though if you look into Islam, they technically say that the Bible is true and that they believe the stories in the Bible outside of Jesus dying on the cross, and they believe he was just a prophet. But this was not always a military zone, but let me see. When was it? So the crazy part is Turkey made it a restricted military zone. Now it is close to a border, so that could be a potential reason, but you're not allowed to go up there. You're not allowed to excavate, and the country is majority Muslim. So if there is something supporting the Bible there, one of the things that scares me the absolute most, and we saw this back in like 2018 from Islamic extremists going into ancient temples and destroying things, taking hammers and just taking down ancient statues, like
ISIS.
because it was non-Islamic history or supported something they didn't believe. And that is what scares the crap out of me about Mount Ararat, is that there might have actually been something there, but in terms of the way very passionate Islamic people are, there's a high chance they've gone in there and just absolutely destroyed everything.
I hope not.
I hope and pray to God that they haven't, but but there'd be so much monetary incentive not to do that, that in terms of like they could sell that, they could do a lot with it. So it'd be very surprising to me that they it wouldn't be that surprising to me, but that's what, if anything, keeps me up at night about this, it'd be that.
Yeah. So diving into some of the more technical aspects regarding Mount Ararat, Noah's Ark research team. So there was a formation or a research group that was basically a collaborative effort involving 3 universities from Turkey and the United States that began in 2021, targeting the Durupinar site. Durupinar, however you say that. which they're referencing. Right. The Durupinar site is the site that we've been kind of alluding to regarding
like a
the boat
site.
Thank you. So the Durupinar site entails the boat-shaped formation in the district of Agri, about 18 miles south of Mount Ararat. The formation, made of limonite, measures approximately 538 feet long, aligning closely with the biblical dimensions of the ark, 300 cubits or 510 to 515 feet. So just starting off at face value, that's pretty darn close dimension-wise to what the ark would have been size-wise. Kind of going on just real quick regarding some of the findings. From 2021 to 2022, the whole team from that research collaboration conducted extensive field work, including ground-penetrating radar, like we talked before,
GPR,
resistivity imaging.
That's what they call me at the club, the ground-penetrating radar.
Nice.
All right, my bad. Keep going.
And soil sampling. So soil and rock samples revealed clay-type materials, marine materials, and seafood dated to 5500 to 3000 BC, aligning with the estimated biblical flood timeline. These findings suggest human activity and potential organic remains such as decayed wood in the area. Now in 2023, the Noah's Ark scans led by a guy named Andrew Jones reported soil samples showing 2.72 times higher carbon content in the inside the formation compared to the surrounding areas, indicating possible decayed wood or organic matter. Subsurface anomalies, including hallways and room-like structures, were detected via ground-penetrating radar, i.e., suggesting a man-made structure. How about them apples?
Yeah, and that's the crazy. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for. Those are the apples that I was going to market to get. But the only thing that I don't like is that it's the Muslim faith is not friendly to other faiths that have historical backing on their territory. So I'm very I think that people would be able to see if they did it, but at the same time, I feel like they're going to take out anything that's relevant enough to be like, oh, this means something, or like this is a big deal. Like if they let's say there was something like really important found there, they would take that and like just hold on to it and never show it to anyone or anything like that. And that's the sad part, man, is that's really like, in terms of figuring out our history in general, like the Sphinx and how the water erosion on it does not point to it being 4,000 years old. It points to it being 12 to 18,000 years old. And there's so much evidence, but because of just people and countries, we will never get to the bottom of so many things, because only for the sake of having more control over something and not for the sake of doing anything positive for the actual historical conversation or attempt to figure these things out, people, like, you can't go into the Sphinx. Like, I'd say one of the things that makes me more mad than anything in this world is that the Library of Alexandria, or they don't know if it was in the Sphinx, but they believe it was, and it was destroyed. And not only that, whatever has been down there has been taken and hidden away by
the
Egypt,
Vatican?
or probably the Vatican. And it's just like, that right there, like the Library of you're not allowed to go in the underground chambers of the Sphinx. Why? Like what's keeping people from that? And it's like, not even if you're an archaeologist, you can barely go there. It's just, oh man, that kills me. So yeah,
I think it goes back to the idea of the establishment, right? We have been taught very specific things for however many years now, that this is what happened. Don't question it. Don't doubt it. If you do, and you try to pursue a potential different perspective, then we're going to label
ostracize you and just make you crazy and
extremely.
Just put you on the island.
Yeah, and that's the same thing like in the Joe Rogan episode with Flint Dibble and Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock believes, during the Younger Dryas period, that there were certain catastrophic events obviously that happened around the year 12,000 or 12,000 years ago. But before that, there were ancient civilizations that existed that were wiped out by said, catastrophic event. And Flint
And it
Dibble,
didn't even have cats.
it's crazy. And Flint Dibble, who's part of the mainstream archaeological society, brutally attacked Graham Hancock for his just not even saying it's guaranteed, but just putting forth a different theory or an idea that there could have been ancient civilizations that existed before the Younger Dryas period, a more advanced civilization, not cavemen. And he was ridiculed and absolutely slammed by mainstream archaeologists. And I think this is the same concept. Same thing with Egypt, same thing with potentially Noah's Ark, same thing with Gobekli Tepe, which we'll talk about here in a second. But if you put forth any other concept or idea besides the mainstream, you are automatically ostracized and labeled as a psycho.
Well, it works like that in every area, whether it's physics, history, science. Science and physics are kind of, in the same field, but, where there's evidence that has been built on before that isn't completely supportive, people will lean on that versus exploring anything new and try to not rebuild the ladder versus add another step to it. But in regards to history, I think it's such a, and it becomes a personal thing, and it becomes a bias, and it becomes like I need to do this to suffice for myself. Like, my identity is tied to this, so I have to make this true. And one thing Flint Dibble did is one of Graham Hancock's most strong arguments is that the Sahara Desert was most likely at one time covered by water and then went through its own certain periods where it wasn't. And there is a lot of potential for us to go into the Sahara Desert and actually find some really crazy stuff that would start plugging in a lot of the holes that have existed in the historical timeline in terms of humans transferring when they originally had civilizations, when they started farming. And he lied about two things, which was so unfortunate. Well, I don't mean to go too far into this, but he essentially said that there's no shipwrecks from the time that you're referencing. And he kept using that as his basis for saying, you're wrong, you're wrong. And then they came back because they did a re-episode of saying like, well, we fact checked everything, and Flint, in Joe Rogan's words, was playing fast and loose with the truth. He said that wood can't last that long. Wood only lasts about 600 years, so there's no way there would be shipwrecks anyways. And then the other thing he said is, in terms of, is there ever any evidence of people, what is the word, domesticating a seed or a plant, and then after they stop domesticating that, it reverses and goes back to what it originally was? And he said, no, that's never been found. He said that confidently and said, absolutely not, because that would give Graham Hancock a really big foothold in terms of his argument. And then they went back and they're like, no, that's happened with multiple seeds and different types of plants. So yeah, all that to say that people who safeguard history for their own selfishness are literally, I think, on par with murderers, because the concerted effort, I really do believe there was a previous civilization to ours, and that civilization had made it from a cohesive standpoint a lot further in terms of tapping into things that we have in ways that were connected, energy most likely, and that was wiped out. And I think there's so many secrets that humans have, natural abilities and things that we could be doing or ways that we could work together. And because of selfishness, pride, and things like this in history, we'll never fully get access to it. And it'll only be a very select few. And the rest of us are just going to perish because we're not actually doing this mission together.
Well, it's like on the note too of just like lost techniques of building. I mean, just look at the ancient Egyptians. That, how the heck did they build the pyramids so perfectly? I mean, techniques like that, we still have no idea how they did it. Even in today's time, with all of our technology, we don't understand how they did it. So I think there was, to your point, a lot that has been lost over the ages. And there's a good few dedicated people to make sure that we as humanity only accept one specific point of view. And if you question it, bad on you.
Well, even if you think about it, even the things that we have a lot of data for, if you were to look back, like let's say that, and I always think about this, like let's say someone tried to look back and go, what was Keegan? They find my body, whatever it was, the remnants of this apartment. They're like,
My
what was
gosh,
his
he
life?
had low T.
Oh my gosh, this guy was practically a woman. My gosh, there's so estrogen dripping out of his bones.
How is he? What is this power?
And then I just, hi. But no, in terms of like, if you were trying to figure out what my life was like, you'd make a lot of mistakes, even with a bunch of evidence. And like, when you compare what actually happened versus what someone can piece together, even with like, let's say a murder, when they're like, oh, he definitely went in here and did this. You can tell this from this. And then it actually gets someone confesses. And it's night and day different in modern times with modern technology. So even history that we have good documentation of, if we were to actually compare it to what really happened at whatever specific time it was, very often, or not even very often, insanely most likely, it would be way different than our conceptualization of it. So like to say that we can really say outside of the certain benchmarks that we can recognize in history that we know what happened is like insane in and of itself. That to like, it's, yeah, you get my point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And I don't know. It's just it's a dangerous perspective when one specific group takes control and refuses to allow any other perspective to come forward. And I think that's what is so messed up with, just certain aspects of modern day science. Like, I don't want to go back to him, but Neil deGrasse Tyson, smart dude.
I'll go back to him.
Yeah, but it's just like not picking on him specifically, but so many people, and you'll hear multiple individuals part of these sects of society, mathematics, science, quantum physics, whatever, that they shred each other. Rightfully so. There has to be, certain aspects of peer review to jump through to prove it. Not arguing that whatsoever.
And it shouldn't be nice. Like, it shouldn't just be like, oh, we're trying to help your feelings. It should be peer review. It should be scrutinizing.
Yeah, and if you put forth any other idea, though, that that legitimately has the legs to go the distance, you are scrutinized beyond belief. I mean, and it could be something that is absolutely true, and it's just until it is socially accepted by the general masses, you'll be crucified, for doing anything against the stream.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I pulled up some examples of this actually happening. So the Troy being just a myth. People passionately thought that Troy was a myth, and no, it's just made up. And that's the other thing is like, I don't give as much credit to, because there is a lot of people throughout history, including myself or anyone that would want to make themselves sound more favorable if they were to retell a story. But for the most part, especially when information wasn't regularly written down, it seems crazy to me that people would write down massive, extremely long myths that were just completely made up. Like the story of Troy. Like I'm like, how could you? I get you could, but it just doesn't seem like you'd go into that much detail about making something up if it wasn't somewhat true. And it was, but I mean, just to kind of give some detail behind it, ancient Troy is described in Homer's Iliad, was considered a legend, not a real place, protected by 18th, 19th century scholars who dismissed Homer as purely fictional, debunked by Henry Schleigmann. Henry Schleigmann, get over here.
That was Japanese.
Excavated. Yeah, that was not German, but I could be a Japanese German man pretty easily. Excavated a site in Hisarlik, Turkey, revealing multiple layers of ancient cities, one matching the timeline of a warlike Troy. Why it mattered. Scholars had labeled the epic poems and myths, but the archaeology showed a historical basis. Lesson: romantic or religious texts can contain real history, and institutional bias delayed that discovery. Let's see. Biblical Jericho's collapse. the flat Earth myth. Wait. Oh, that medieval people believed the Earth was flat. 19th century historians who promoted the myth to try to make earlier periods look backward. The most educated people in Middle Ages knew the Earth was round, even from as early as Aristotle. Yeah, people have been smart for a while. Dead Sea Scrolls suppression. Ooh. Earlier Christian doctrine developed independently of Judaism. Protected by the small academic team given exclusive access to the Dead Sea Scrolls for decades, debunked. Once opened to broader scholarship in the 1990s, scrolls revealed deep connections between first century Judaism and Christianity. Why it was protected? Fear that new interpretations would shake theological and historical assumptions. Lesson: gatekeeping data can delay truth. Put that on a t-shirt and sell it.
Proves our point.
Yeah. But yeah, just a couple examples. But yeah, people, when they have their identity tied to something, will go down swinging trying to protect it. And we've all done stuff like this. We've all been like, crap, I know I'm wrong, but I've gone this far. I'm not giving up.
Yeah.
Like Chase, usually when he makes a point, that's like the logical next pattern of thoughts is I know Keegan's right. I'm wrong, but I've already gone this far. I can't just give up.
Like Antarctica and us buying that from the Russians last episode.
We did.
Nope. It was Alaska.
We did.
I was there.
I actually brokered the deal.
Yep. And he made 0.0005% of that.
I made $20, boy. Back in that day, I was bowling.
You got $20 bill?
Got about $350.
$350, no sea monster. But going back to Noah's Ark, so we did want to kind of introduce an interesting theory for those that might have heard of it. Gobekli Tepe. So it is an ancient site in eastern part of Turkey where we don't fully know what Gobekli Tepe is. Besides, from what we're assuming, it's the oldest known human-made place of, again, from what we're assuming, worship, most likely dating back to 10,000 BC. So there's been some interesting, I don't want to say correlation, I don't want to say relation, just generalist theorizing that maybe Gobekli Tepe and Noah's Ark are kind of intertwined. So, giving you guys some reference, going back to Noah's Ark, Genesis 8:20 records that Noah built an altar to the Lord after disembarking from the ark. Okay. Well, going to Gobekli Tepe, people again theorize that in some form or fashion, these theories are linked due to their proximity in location. And the presence of animal carvings at the site. Some interpretations suggest that Gobekli Tepe might be a monument or altar commemorating the animals saved on the ark with all the animal carvings on the stone, or that the site was built by survivors of the biblical flood, Noah and his family. However, again, keep in mind, these are just theories, interpretations, not guaranteed fact, but the interesting thing about Gobekli Tepe is it's a massive site for one. We started digging, excavating it, finding some really cool stuff until the Turkish government stepped in and said, hey, you can't do this anymore. Don't do it anymore. You want to know what their reason was, if I'm not mistaken? Is because
we only
it was
sell
putting
turkeys.
Yes. It was putting too much of an environmental impact in the area, and that they chose to shut down future progress of excavation and digging on the site because they had to plant more trees.
Bro, I would go to war with Turkey over that.
Real quick, though, and this is pure speculation, that what Keegan said earlier, Turkey is a majority Muslim nation. And it goes back to the question of, is it truly an environmental issue, or are they stunting and halting the progress of excavating because it would further prove the Bible?
Yes, 150%.
I know you know that, but I was posing that to the audience.
I know. I'm not saying that back to you. Stop.
I'm talking to you.
We're not doing this in front of our kids. We're not doing this in front of the kids.
Our audience.
Okay, your children or chitlins, little chitlins.
Children.
Well, chill.
So, all that to say,
Um,
there's some interesting theories relating to kind of both of those, and speculations, and then as to why the progression of excavation on Gobekli Tepe has been halted by the Turkish government.
yeah, and it's again, I think that they would very safely go in there and try to destroy everything that they could because eventually something's going to happen and someone's going to be able to excavate it, and they'd rather not. And that's just crazy to me. Like and we're making assumptions here, but your truth and what you want to be real is more important than actually finding out what is real. Because at the end of the day,
Preach.
I am a Christian. I believe Jesus Christ was the legitimate Son of God and God incarnate, and he came down to die for our sins, and he died on the cross.
Amen.
The only way I can be a true Christian in my mind is to admit I might be wrong, is to admit that while I believe it, there is the chance I could be wrong. And I have to be open to evidence showing that. Not saying, oh, if I see something, I'm just going to immediately dive into, oh, that makes it wrong. You evaluate everything very thoroughly, but if you can't admit that you might be wrong about what you believe, then you'll never be able to have a conversation with anyone. Because the only way that you can have a conversation is to both be in a willing state of having your opinion changed. Outside of that, you're not going to have a conversation. You're just talking at or yelling at people. And that's why, you ask, I've seen this in debates with atheists and Christians, and they're like, if you had the evidence and you could prove that Christianity was real, would you still believe it? Would you believe it? And they say no. I'm like, okay, then what's the point of the conversation? If
Right.
you don't have the opening to be potentially wrong, then at the end of the day, this is going nowhere. So all that to say that if you literally shield history, that you don't even know if it's going to make you completely wrong. It could do a 180, and what you think is going to make it wrong is going to support you even more. But you would take that from the rest of the world forever,
Yeah.
just to protect something that you need to be true. Gosh, I hate that. I hate
Well,
that with a passion. And
and
Christians have done it too. Every religion has done it.
Oh, we're human. Yeah, we're completely fallible. And it all goes back to the idea of where are these individuals driving their significance and their identity from. They would much rather go down swinging, i.e., pride, than admit anything else because that is their sole significance. I.e., also Billy Carson. That whole thing with Wes Huff, that debate, how he completely shredded Billy Carson's narrative and everything that he's talked about his entire career from his studies, and everything that he's talked about with individuals. So, unless you are legitimately shredded, your identity is what you talk about. For these individuals, at least.
Yeah, and I'm because I wanted to look back into that and see what's actually, because I saw Billy Carson. He's salvaged. I wouldn't say salvaged, but he's been trying really hard to salvage his career and continue producing content and things like that.
Explain real quick who Billy Carson is for those that don't know.
So Billy Carson was or is still a theoretical scientist. I don't know if he has any honestly science background, but he's a theoretical scientist and studies aliens, ancient civilizations, cultures, and he is of the belief that we were visited by the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki came down and they gave us a lot of our technologies, that Jesus Christ was essentially like an alien, or he was some type of guy that went to learn Tibetan, heart stopping so he could act like he died on the cross and then come back to life. Like, he pretty much is a pseudoscience and pseudo history and a lot of very loose claims, but in very interesting ways that do have interesting things to look into. In terms of that's what made him famous, and he got really famous. I mean, he was on Ancient Aliens 1,000 times. He's in any conversation that has anything to do with that, ancient cultures and their connections with anything from outside of the narrative. So honestly, I was a fan in regards to enjoying what he had to say, and he had some really interesting stuff. But he got on this debate with Wes Huff, who's a biblical scholar, or still studying to be a biblical scholar, but it still has a lot of the credentials to be one. and was just destroyed in regards to referencing certain things that he claimed made the Bible inherently true, or things that were different based off of other things found. And in real time, his entire career just got destroyed. All of his credibility, really a lot of his foundational arguments towards certain topics, in real time were just dismantled. So he was famous for a long time. So he has been trying to claw back, has tried to sue Westhoff, has done a lot of different things I wouldn't say a lot, he's just been trying really hard to come back from that, because it's really hard to. And I saw him on a debate where they were like, all right, let's just address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the Westhoff debate. And it wasn't a debate, it was a conversation. And I didn't listen to the rest of it. I didn't get into it. So I wanted to see what his, he released a 3-hour video response addressing the aftermath of the debate, his key points, and his emotions at the time. According to critics, the long-form reaction alienated many of his followers who felt it lacked focus and coherence. Ooh, that sucks. Wesley Huff shared that Carson sent him a cease and desist letter. Critics point out that Carson's response leaned heavily on emotion or in rhetoric rather than defense. Yeah, he got destroyed pretty hard, but he has not been doing too much afterwards.
Yep. Yeah. So it's identity and pride.
And glide.
Yes, and ride.
Roll Tide.
Bama. But we actually hit that our normal allotted time that we give ourselves. We had some other stuff we were going to talk about, but not a bad thing. We can save that till next time.
You want to tease it?
You want to tease it?
Forgot what we were going to talk about.
We were going to give some follow-up regarding the Buga, Colombia sphere UAP that was recovered. Regarding some further investigation and research and dissection pretty much on the recovered sphere. Go check out our previous episode. I don't remember which one it was, but we dove into kind of the majority of it when it was first recovered, but there's been some subsequent information that has come out regarding further study of said object. So we're going to dive into that a little bit and some other topics.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, guys, as always, it was super fun. Love the heck out of all of you. And please interact with our Thoughtify Thought around the Epstein files. We want to hear what you guys think. And then we appreciate all the support. And just to say it, if you made it this far in the episode, we got a super sick shirt out. It says right to bear arms, but it has arrow pointing right, the number 2, a bear, and a dude flexing his arms. Right to bear arms. And it is just super cool. So y'all go check that out. It's selling for an amazing price. Oh, there it is right there. That is, honestly, I'm going to buy one. I really want that shirt. That's so cool.
We've got Thoughtify written on the sleeves in a really cool desert sand color, but we also have it in heather gray, good old school vintage white, and then just normal white as well.
There's something called heather gray.
Heather gray. It's a type of gray.
Think of that being like your name is associated with the word gray, and you're just like, yeah, it's heather gray.
It's pretty sick. But go check it out, guys. We love the Second Amendment, and we fully support it. So go check it out.
Go check it out. But again, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you next episode.
See you guys. Enjoy your days and weeks and months
and
years. See you guys.
All those things.